But our first guest is Mark Cohen, who is the founder of moneysherpa.ie, because you've done an interesting survey, Mark, which looks at how much more money people are paying in rent than they would be if they had a mortgage to live in the same property having bought it. How can that be?
Yes, Matt. Our analysis shows that the average renter now pays over $3,500 a year more than a buyer taking out a 90% mortgage on exactly the same property. And that's the story right across the country. Renters are paying at least $1,000 more a year than buyers in every part of the country, apart from South County Dublin, which is the only region where it's actually cheaper to rent than to pay a mortgage. And of course, that's an issue because those that can't buy over 30 years are going to be paying over $100,000 more in rent than the equivalent buyer. And at the end of that, of course, they have nothing to show for it. So it makes it really hard for renters to build any real financial security for the family.
Well, Mark, I think that's the key point, because there's an old phrase I think was drummed into many people growing up, that renting is dead money, that you have the objective to try and buy your own place so that by the time the mortgage is paid off, you own it, debt-free. You have an asset which you can sell for your retirement if need be, or else you don't have to worry about the cost of funding continued rent, maybe in your retirement years. This looks like the system. Is it market failure?
It is. I mean, of course, the root cause of this, Matt, is the lack of supply, and that is driving up housing costs for both renters and for buyers. However, the latest rental report from DAFT indicates that rents are up 8% year on year, while our analysis on mortgage repayments indicates they're only up by about 5% on average. So the impact of the lack of housing supply is still falling mostly on renters, who were already the most vulnerable. That imbalance really shows that more support's needed for renters who may be looking to buy. Otherwise, they end up in this poverty trap, effectively.
So what's the solution?
Housing supply is obviously the longer-term solution. If we could increase the supply, then that will bring down costs for both those looking to buy and those looking to rent. But there are some shorter-term solutions that are available. So, for example, more accessible credit from mortgage lenders. We still have, the central bank last year did loosen the lending rules slightly. We went to 4.5 times salary as one of the caps, but we still have one of the most tightest lending regimes in Europe. And after all, most of these renters are regularly making payments higher than a mortgage would be. So you can see that logically they probably should be able to get a mortgage.
And also, do they qualify for government supports, such as the Help to Buy scheme?
This is the second area where I think more can be done. So most of the current schemes only apply to new housing builds. And as we all know, that's where we've got a big problem in terms of getting enough new houses. So I think there is a case for targeted measures to expand the schemes that are available to renters to allow them to buy non-new homes. That's very limited at the moment. And I think there is an urgent need for renters because they do risk really a generational wealth gap happening with the families that don't currently own property.
And what's going to happen to them when they reach their retirement years and they don't have the same income coming in to cover the rents?
It's a ticking time bomb, Matt. And I think that's why it's more of a priority to look at renters, because they're in an even deeper hole than buyers potentially. I mean, some do worry that if we expand the help to renters in terms of additional credit or additional government support, then that will inflate house prices. And it will, of course, if you increase the abilities for people to buy, it will drive up house prices, but it will make purchase more accessible, and it will give those buyers more help. And by relieving the over-demand in the rental market, it will in turn reduce the rent. So I think despite the fact that may have some inflationary impact on prices, I think it is worthwhile. Otherwise, we do really risk this group of people being left behind.
Mark Cohen, founder of moneysherpa.ie, thank you for joining us.